Welcome to the Liberated Feminine Podcast. I'm Lucy Lampy, your host. And in today's episode, I have special guest with me, Julie Tran, a marriage coach who helps heart-led women entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers stop trying to change their husbands and instead learn to inspire him so they can have success on an unbreakable foundation of love and support at home. And I love this so much. We have so many juicy conversations about everything to do with this. So Julie, welcome, and take it from here with anything you'd love to add to that introduction and what led you to doing this work.
Yes. Thank you for that. I'm so excited to be here and to jam on this topic. It's something that I discovered I'm so passionate about, not because I was born knowing how to have a good marriage, knowing how to inspire my husband. I actually did the opposite. I tried to change him. I tried to fix him, and my marriage was falling apart. And so, I just wanted to create the context that, I'm here because of all of I see and feel the frustration that most women are experiencing, whether they're married or in a long-term partnership, where we just haven't had the consciousness, the education. Literally nobody taught us how to have loving, safe, secure relationships. We brought in all this baggage with us, including me and my husband. And I'm sure for most of your people listening to this right now, and it can be so disempowering and can make us feel like, what's wrong with us? And so a big part of what I do is teaching women how to develop these skills that nobody taught us, and start activating that sense of power within us to source our own confidence and radiance. And I know radiance is the topic that you are the queen of, and I just want I'm looking forward to weaving this into our conversation and the topic.
Yes. And actually on that note, I'd love to let's love to go deeper into that. First is how our radiance really shapes the energy or influences really powerfully the energy in our relationship. And also perhaps, what you've noticed as you've been, embodying more of your radiance. The difference between, let's say, really efforting to I'm going to be in my feminine energy and I'm going to stop, trying to control and as opposed to, I'm being more me. And now this is the impact on my relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so many layers and so many nuances here, but I would say that for me in discovering my radiance, it's almost it's a process of shedding and also a process of learning and growing at the same time. It's both happening at the same time. And so in my journey, it didn't start out with exploring the divine feminine. It was more toxic masculinity, in the body of a woman, right?
I can relate.
I was in corporate America. I grew up in a family that was emphasized. I love my parents. They did the best they could. I really truly can't emphasize how much I love and adore and appreciate them. And, just the culture that we're in, we were just saturated in, work hard, put your head down, and your worth is really how smart you are and how hard you can work. And so I used to pride myself in working 60, 70, 80 hours a week once I graduated from college and was working in the finance world. And so, there just came a time where I said something, I literally got anxiety and depression and was on medication. At that time, I didn't know that there was something deeper to that. I just thought that that's how, there was something wrong with me and that's how I fix it. Also on the outside, everything looked great. I checked all the boxes. I had the resume, I had the title.
Oh, yes.
Blah, blah, blah. But then on the inside, my marriage was falling apart. And it wasn't it was bad every day or anything. We had a good marriage in a lot of ways, but just having a simple conversation and giving feedback, right, was like, oh my God, like riddled with landmines. You're stepping on bombs, you're putting up your shield. And it's like, you just couldn't feel at home having a normal conversation with your partner. And over time, that just compounded into me not wanting to have any sex with my husband, feeling like there's there's something wrong with him. I'm a good communicator. I'm doing the work.
It's always that, right?
Yeah, there's something wrong with you, and so my radiance. I would look myself in the mirror. I'm like, well, who is she? Like, where? Like, I used to be happy. I remember when I was younger, I used to be optimistic. I used to be happy. And then there were seasons where I would look in the mirror. I'm like, I just felt so gray and drained. And I knew a big piece of it was that I felt like, even though my ego was telling me that I was a really good communicator and my husband was not, there's something deep down where I knew that there's something I could learn, because communication always made me feel contracted and uncomfortable. Like I needed to perform. I needed to prove myself, right? And so I just started doing the inner work and exploring that, and learning aspects of communication that I was never taught. I mean, the bottom line, a lot of bottom lines, but one is that what I discovered is just communication is so much more than, being right, so much more than your words. So much more than like getting your point across, so much more than sitting there acting like you're listening, but not really listening. It's so much deeper.
Big one.
And so I went through rigorous training on leadership and communication, and I brought that home, and just started healing my relationship with my husband, noticing that the times where he would speak and share something, and automatically I would get triggered. Automatically I would start to judge him, and like say, for example, he would vent or get upset at something, and automatically I'm like, grow up, like that type of energy, that type of energy. I didn't say it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, of course, then my husband wouldn't feel safe around me. And then our relation, and so, it just kind of became like a competitive type of dynamic as opposed to connection. And so, I just like learned to explore more of like what communication is beneath like the words, like into the energetics of it, into like the heart space of it. And then my radiance started to come back. So sometimes like, the question of like radiance and the question of personal development, are you finding yourself, or are you like, stepping into something new? And I feel like it's both. It's like I was shedding things I didn't know I had, where were these like walls that told me I needed to protect myself, that told me and these stories, right, about who he is and who I am. And then in this process of, it's, okay, I think I just got it. It's like, what you have to learn is learning how to shed.
Yes.
Because that word sounds so simple, especially in our space, but actually, it is a lot more nuanced. So there's a process of learning, of being conscious to what is there, and then learning how to shed layer by layer by layer. And as I did that and got really, really fucking honest with myself on how I was showing up, and how I was just like had an agenda all the time versus actually living in my heart, I realized that the more and more I shed of that, the more radiant I felt. And the more I learned certain skills, like learning how to repair and take ownership, also learning how to inspire my husband to repair and take ownership too, my radiance started to come back. I'm like, oh, I know how to, like, I get relationships now.
Skill building.
Yes. And then also though, here's the part where it bridges into the divine feminine work. Because then my radiance started to come back, but then I hit a plateau because we were talking so much. There was a lot of unpacking, there was a lot of talking, and there's a lot of resistance. And my work in this feminine work came about when I was like, okay, what is this? What am I missing? And, I just started I don't know when or how, but it was just something like something that I knew in my heart that I wanted to explore was my sexuality and my sensuality. And at that moment, it was just like, now's the time. I just knew that there was a connection. And when I began to do that, my radiance opened up even more and even more and even more. And even allowing myself to embrace self-pleasure, which is a whole other topic.
Girl, yes.
Topic, but we got to be diving into that. But yeah, it just keeps on activating more. It's like a rose, like more and more and more and more layers. And I just feel like both aspects of it, like the physical, the spiritual. All of it is spiritual, but like the physical and like the heart, the mind, the communication is all communication, and they all work so powerfully together.
Yes. And I think when you said it, what's funny is I recognized in myself the same kind of point in my own journey when I thought, well, what's missing? But I remember distinctly in my body, the energy was more, well, let's just call it masculine, right? It's like, it was still like problem solving, like what's missing? What is still, where's the puzzle piece? And I was like, problem solving mode. But that's beautiful because that's what it takes a lot of times to kind of nudge us and motivate us to explore what I would say, is the feminine path, which is one of deep surrender. It's that shedding. When you said it's something we learn, yeah, because we have such a hard time surrendering, letting go, letting things be easy, receiving the worthiness, all of the stories and the things that can get in the way of that. And so it's a path of surrender and being with what is. And there's no fixing involved. And that can be so maddening than it was for me. And so for you to unravel that, it takes courage.
I also feel like it's surrendering, but there has to be trust with the surrender. And there also has to be like trust within yourself that when you surrender, you're letting go, but you trust yourself because you've developed these skills to be able to I don't want to say like hang on to something, but like to navigate the terrain,
Yes. And so in that sense too, it's beyond just it translates into everything. Yeah. So when we talk about success, and by the way, for you all listening, a quick little side note here on what is success. Julie and I were tag teaming back and forth about this in our combos before, because success is such a broad term. So to define what success looks like for you, which, for example, for me, and I'd love to hear from you, Julie, what it looks like for you, it's having this freedom to create, having a love that feels safe and vibrant and expansive, and where there's trust and respect and reverence. It's not necessarily a number or whether that's longevity or finance, but just something that supports your values and allows you to expand in the soulful ways that you're here to do. So just in a nutshell, how would you define success in career and in relationship?
In a nutshell, that's so hard. I know. There's so much here.
Tall order.
I know.
Just a few keywords.
Just a few keywords. Okay.
Even.
Liberation. We've talked about this in our many, many beautiful, juicy voice notes on so many different topics, but just feeling liberated in being at home in your body, knowing who you are, and living a life where I don't want to say you're fearless, but you're living from your heart. And that from that place, you're living in the highest alignment of your soul. And whatever that translation is in the human form, you get to decide. Yeah. But I say that for me, it's today. What does it look like? Today, it looks like being free to be who I am, and also discovering who I am in the moment, and not being afraid to express that, wherever I am. So for example, like, I followed you a year ago, and I saw all this amazingness on your Instagram page, including you just pole dancing.
Yeah.
And you're in your cute little thong, and I'm like, oh, and she looks so beautiful and so artistic. And I'm like, oh wow. And at that moment, it was just like an oh wow. And then now I have straight up have a stripper pole.
Yes. I'm converting one woman.
You convert, I'm sure you converted so many women, but like just the thought of me like back then, the version of me back then was inspired, but also very close and like in fear. And I never would have thought the version of me now would actually have bought a stripper pole.
Yes, girl.
Actually dancing and learning and actually posting it on social media. Literally, my soul was like, "You're doing this," and I was like,
"It's an edge. It's an edge.
It's an edge." I got the assignment, and I'm doing. And that's the thing is I'm sorry, this is going a little longer, but
no. This is part of the story.
But it's not even about the dancing. It's not even about the stripper pole. It's none of that. It's just like, oh, this is like the nudge that I'm feeling, and I'm just gonna do it. This is the nudge, and it's just like the more I keep listening, the more free I feel, and the more magic unfolds in my life, and things just feel easier. I feel more alive. So,
yes, isn't it wild how much easier, and that doesn't mean it doesn't get challenging, y'all, but how much things flow when you do have this vibrance and this aliveness. And to me, that's really one of the core things of what it is to be in that liberated feminine embodiment, because without that, it feels like, it just feels like more effort, like, and there's a difference between, putting in effort that it's almost like it's compelling you, it's pulling you, when I get that sense, it's harder for me not to do it than to just do it. Mm-hmm. Hence starting this whole podcast. This is one of those moments. I was like, it's time. And then I was like, oh yay, it's time. And
by the way, y'all, Lucy decided to do it that morning, and then she dropped an episode like 3-4 hours later, or maybe even less.
Literally that morning, I was voice messaging Julie, right? And I said, oh, and I was thinking out loud on this. I thought, oh God, is it time to start a podcast? And then I finished that voice note, and I said, oh God, it's time. And then later, I was talking to my partner who was traveling at the time, and I was like, hey, babe, guess what? I started a podcast today. He's like, well, that's such a you thing to do on a random Tuesday. So though. Feels effortless in a sense.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that I so admire about you, because you create so quickly. And when I think about that, right? Like, how can people create so quickly? There is less time. Like, there's so much deep trust in themselves. There's no I mean, of course there's contemplation, but there's just like, I have this idea, I trust myself, boom, right? Go, let's go. And it feels alive. And I think that like that, and that's something I so admire about you. And I aspire to have more of my life, because I want to, there's so many things that I want to create, and how I want to serve, and how I want to live my life, and things that I don't even know about yet. But I know that the velocity in total alignment matters to the power and the what are the words? The power. I'm just like imagining like this, you're getting the visual explosion. Yeah, I'm imagining like there's an explosion of creativity, right? And I think that's available for all of us. The more that we start having the courage to source our aliveness and start investigating what that is for us, what is success to us, and start living in alignment with that.
Yes. And you know what? That also comes with a decent amount of spaciousness.
Yeah.
Because as you're describing that, it's like the explosion happens, that expansion, because, when you also are learning to allow there to be space and to not just fill it up with stuff. That was, we've talked about this, it's one of the hardest lessons to have learned, coming from that mentality of I must be always achieving or producing or proving. Because if the energy is really coming from, I need to validate my entire existence. And instead of, am I rested enough to do my best work? Am I resourced?
Yes.
It's totally different. So, I mean, you've experienced that shift. You've been experiencing that.
Yes. It's just like layers on layers and layers. But I think like more recently, I had like a huge shift in that where I was doing this launch for my business, and I got to this place where I was like putting so much effort and energy, and I felt there was a good amount of alignment. Like I was excited, and I put something out there on this program I was doing, and I got such great feedback, and women were signing up, but the metrics, I didn't meet the metrics that I want, right? And then I started feeling like so deflated, and just like every day waking up feeling like, where's my energy? Like I'm not excited about this anymore. Like what happened? And I did a lot of exploration on that. And one morning I woke up kind of just like literally like if you were to like put a camera on me, I was like this. And my face tilted up to the sky like, what is going on? Why is this happening? And just something, I just got this ping. Yeah, I was just like, God, what? And then I just got this ping, that's like, it's like, oh shit, that's right. I've been outsourcing my worthiness to the success in my business. How much income I was making, how many people were signing up, and how much impact I was making. And I knew I was making a big impact because the feedback I was getting from the women I was serving and the transformation that they were getting in their relationship within like a day, right? So I knew that I was making an impact, but it was like I was this hungry ghost where I was insatiable. Like it just wasn't enough, no matter how much I did, how much impact I made. And I just had this moment where I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like what? Why am I outsourcing my sense of worthiness to my work? I mean, I love my work, don't get me wrong, but there was this attachment to my work validating me. And then there's also, because I grew up Catholic, there's a big part of me and big part of my heart that wants to do good in this world. And so there's this other part of me that's like, of course I want to make an impact. Of course I want to change the world. But my identity was attached to making a difference, to being a good person. And I don't, I want to be careful how I say this because I want to just honor everybody's heart who wants to do good. I want to honor that because that's so beautiful. At the same time, I think that there's shadow that's happening in our industry. And I'm speaking from noticing this in myself that we're not talking about. And that is that we are striving so hard to do good and making an impact on this world and making income, of course, that we are actually neglecting the integrity in our life and creating a marriage, creating a relationship that is compassionate and harmonious, that actually is like the foundation of this world being a better place. And I know relationships are hard. That's why I do what I do, because for some reason, God gave me something to have it all click, right? And that's why, like, I just feel like this is an important conversation to bring up in the space, in the coaching space, because I know a lot of your listeners are coaches and healers. And I just want, if anyone is feeling like they're struggling in their relationship, that there's hope. There's nothing wrong with you. These are literally foundational skills that none of us were taught. And the more that we can, now we know that, actually take the action to learn to fill in the gaps, the more aliveness that we are going to feel, the more, and even for me, like the more, because I had this foundation, the self-pleasure, the divine feminine work, that just clicked so much faster for me. And so that's on another tangent, but hold on, coming back to your question.
Well, yeah, well, actually, there's a great connection right there, Julie. You just nailed it. It's like that same thing that we have a tendency to do, or that you and I personally have had this tendency to do, and I know so many others have too, is to, oh, I'm awake now. I'm aware of this thing. Now I'm enlightened on this, and it's my job now to go save people.
Yes.
And it's, not only does that not work, because then the energy we're giving off is there's something wrong with you, and I can show you how to do it better, instead of how can I be love? How can I witness you and love you and support you and invite you into, how do you want to be supported? And that it translates exactly into relationship. Yes. And that same thing, I feel like, is like such a core thing in whatever success looks like for us in both of these arenas, because how you do relationship with your intimate partner is also going to reflect how you do relationship and see and view your if your worthiness is attached to fixing people or enlightening your partner or making them a more conscious man, because now what's wrong with you? I love that you're looking at your shadows, Julie, too. We've had so many conversations about this back and forth. Just, why am I triggered about this? Yes, he could show up better in this, but also what is this speaking to me? So all of that ties it together.
Yeah, it's and I love what you said about like how we show up in our work and our relationship. It's that fixing energy. We're bringing that home to our partner, and no wonder our partner's not inspired, because they feel like we're like, they say, hey, how's your day? What's that?
They feel like a project.
They say, oh yeah, they feel like a project, and like they'll just say something like, how was your day? And then suddenly, all these like, all the baggage comes in. And it's like, what do you mean by that? Are you saying there's something wrong? Let's look into that.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It's just, I just love how everything it's just like we've talked about, right? Where you are anywhere is where you are everywhere. And
so it's like the lens you're looking through, because you're looking through that same lens, that same pair of glasses. Pretty much everything. That's the norm, and that feeling of also having this identity wrapped up in the things that we're doing, and even in our relationships themselves. And actually, that's something I'd love to talk about too, because that's something that really keeps us from experiencing the legitimate, we'll call it the vision, the success of what we really long for in both these arenas and everything in life. And that's allowing ourselves to shed the attachment to the identities, because we do have identities. Like, I'm a mom, right? I'll always be a mom. It's like, no matter how big they get, they'll be my children. I'll be their mother. But if I take my whole identity and like, now I am a mom, and instead of I am multifaceted, I'm this and this and this and this, and also this gets to change form. And so speaking to this, what you've experienced on the releasing of attachment to an identity. It's not that you don't have it. It's just that you're not attached to it. It's like when I went through the divorce, I was like, I'm not a wife anymore. That was really hard. Massive identity shift. So if you've had something like that you can speak to and shed some insight.
I do. And this like totally ties to you and your journey and witnessing your journey. For me as a relationship coach, as a marriage coach, specifically working with women, I just knew that we as a society are bought into certain narratives about marriage and relationships. Like, passion just dies over time. At best you become friends, but things just kind of become transactional, and you just fight all the time, and that's just the way it is. And especially the one on sex, you just don't have sex anymore after you get married. I bought into that and just allowed that to happen for the first 10 years of my marriage. And as I started to heal my relationship and getting into the divine feminine work, I wanted to look for evidence of women out there who are married, who are monogamous, who have kids, who are having the most fucking amazing sex life with their husband, right? And I found you on the Sahara Rose podcast, I think maybe a couple years ago. I started following Lucy, And I just like, I'm sure there were many nights where I was just like going down the Lucy rabbit hole. Like I went all the way deep into like your, I don't know, from years and years of your content. I'm like, everything like she posts, I'm like, yes, 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 so good. Like she cracked the code. I love this. I love this woman. And then and then you dropped some news on us, right? Earlier last year.
Yeah.
And
like New Year's bomb.
New Year's bomb. Like just all of a sudden I was like, what? Like, first of all, like my heart like went out to you. And I'm like, oh my God, because I knew from witnessing you on Instagram and witnessing your story, which you don't really talk about that much, but like just reading your bio and like everything that you went through to create this relationship and make it as as beautiful as it was. My heart went out to you. And then I also like the fear came up inside of me. I was like, oh my God, if Lucy, a woman like Lucy can't keep a relationship, she's getting a divorce, like what? And I saw this literally my thoughts, like somebody wrote this comment on one of your posts.
Literally. Isn't that how it works though?
Yeah, because like I'm not like a big commenter, but I like kind of scanning the comment section.
Get the popcorn, get to the comment.
Yeah, like, whoa, me too. So I'll like scan. I'm like, there's one person was like, if a woman like Lucy can't keep a relationship, then what hope is there? What hope is there for the rest of us? And I was like, oh my God, she took the words out of my soul. And so I was like sitting in this like this fear. But it was such a gift because it made me confront so much about myself, including how much of my identity was attached to my relationship and my marriage, looking a certain way, feeling a certain way, being healthy and vibrant and being role models or whatever, right? And then witnessing your journey and what you continue to share, like from such a deep, vulnerable place. And obviously, there are a lot of things you kept private, but what you were able to share, and even just getting to know you like off Instagram, I was like, wow, I actually like love this woman even more because she's in her journey of like deeper liberation and deeper like detachment from all of these labels, and including like being a wife, right? And it was in the best possible way, an invitation for me to do the same.
Yes.
And
you're gonna make me cry. I'm crying. I'm pregnant and emotional.
Yeah, it's like I just want, take it all in because like you deserve to be acknowledged. You deserve to be acknowledged for this work that you're doing. And not necessarily because you're trying, it's just who you are. And I want to say one other thing too, like there's this deeper part of this. It's like, it's not even like an ego thing with Lucy. It's like this just deep connection to being a devotee of love. Everything Lucy does. And this is why I'm so like, I feel like we're soul sisters. I'm like, I recognize her.
Yeah. We've done this in past lives. We know each other.
Yeah. It's like, it's just this deep devotion to love. And on the surface, if somebody knew, like, dropped into her Instagram, they would be like, like she's kind of promiscuous or like whatever, right? But no, like, that's not it. Like, it's just this deep devotion to love in every single, like pore and cell of your body. And like when we talk about liberation, like to me, that's it. Like, oh, that's it. And so I keep losing the question. Sorry.
The question is the conversation that we are having right now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, we're good. And people listening are like, yeah, I'm tracking with, I'm picking up what you're putting down, but I don't remember where we started.
The original question. But yes, okay, I think it was like my journey, right? So my journey has been
the shift of identity.
Been very inspired by your journey. And it's actually freed me up to love even deeper and even more. And this is where I'm going to get emotional. Oh, okay. It's actually freed me up.
It's okay to cry, everybody.
Yeah. To love deeper, loving myself deeper, loving my husband deeper, and like and really like even more so being a like some facilitator isn't the word. A what's the word? What's the word? It's like I don't know. I'm just doing this thing with my hand. I'm like this like this vessel of expansion to set my husband free. Not set him free. I'm sorry, that's not the word. It's to liberate him. Yeah. You know, so any attachments that I had about like who he should be, how he should make me feel, how he should, what he should do to make me feel loved. And yes, like those questions are important, but then what's more important is like, how can I support him in liberating his soul and have him have greater access to love so that we can both be these like open channels in our relationship. And it's not going to look like he needs to be a certain way for me. He needs to show up a certain way for me. It's just going to be more of like, how do we keep being this, how do we keep words? How do we keep on being this light for each other? So yeah.
Yes. The liberation, what I'm hearing in that too is that when you say to liberate him, my image, because I've been there, I was there with Ryan and I've been there with my current partner now, that it's like liberating them from our shackles that we've put on them.
Yeah.
You know, because God knows they got plenty of liberation to do in their own selves that we can't do really anything except for support and witness and love. But, you know, at the very least, removing that barrier, that resistance, that like, you know, I remember when I had that shift in my marriage, you know, and thankfully we did crack a code. Like we honest to God did. There was a breaking point, there was a rock bottom, there was health and finances and disabilities and mental health and all those things. And that was my big awakening catalyst. And to go from feeling like, honestly, maybe I'm asexual, I thought. And I thought, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But yeah, I really literally thought it was like, I could go without it the rest of my life and I would be okay. And that's not to say that anyone who identifies as asexual, this applies to you, but it certainly did for me and Julie. So when I started to tap in and really connect with my sexual energy, and then that transformed massively my relationship, because it's not like, you know, divorce happened because somebody cheated or fell out of love or we couldn't see eye to eye on like how to raise the kids. You know, it was, or somebody stopped having sex or wanting sex. It was just such a bizarre, I mean, Julie actually does know the ins and outs of that, but that aren't public, but it was such a bizarre just journey. And so to be in that openness to shedding, I think has got to be one of the most vulnerable and powerful and important parts of, if you really want to experience the life that your soul is here to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like one aspect of infinite aspects of shedding is shedding your idea of who your partner should be.
Yeah.
You know, the work that I do is all about inspiring your husband instead of changing him, but also like a deeper layer to that is not inspiring him to be who you want him to be.
Yes.
It's actually inspiring him to be who he's meant to be. You know, in his soul, like how God or whoever, you know, or spirit, whatever your beliefs are, like can inspire him to step into his highest alignment. And not that you're being a martyr, but also like, no matter what that means to your relationship, you know, having that and also inspiring yourself to step into your highest alignment. And I just believe that when both people are on that path, or at least if you have that vision in your relationship, you know, to be on that path and creating, you know, the space for him to do the same, that just makes for this deeper expansion of the love and connection and intimacy that we all crave, and then surrendering to whatever happens.
Yes. And that's the real liberation that you will feel palpably in a relationship when I remember there was 2 years before the divorce happened, and I had this intense grief for no apparent reason. And I can look back and see, I was grieving, like we were taking this path deeper into our soul journeys, and something in me knew this is a decision point that is going to be so fucking painful, but liberating for what our souls are here for. And, so sometimes also just honoring those somatic experiences as they come up, or, those, just let it be felt and don't try to attach story to it. Because I did have a mushroom journey actually where the goddess told me, and the God in feminine form told me, you're going to have to let him go. And this was years before. Wow. And I thought, I was so confused. And I came out of that and I told him, and I was like, I don't think this means why would we break up? But it was like a pre, a little bit of foreshadowing. But by the time it got there, I was at so much peace, and so was he. So it wasn't like, it was just such a different than I'd ever seen or experienced or heard of. But on that, with those who are navigating, the daily ins and outs of relationship and the skills that we're talking about, what's one thing that you can share on how to soften our shackles? Put it that way.
Yeah. What I love to offer as like a start is like, in order to do that, we have to have certain level of trust within ourselves. We don't want to just just surrender and then fall into the abyss, right?
Yeah.
That's scary. So like, how do we develop trust in ourselves? And I believe a big part of that is learning how to express your wants, your needs, and desires in a way that your partner can actually hear you instead of shutting down. Because when he shuts down, you start losing trust in yourself. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with him? These are like daily interactions, like, can you help me with something? And when there's a shutdown, he's like, and there's, attitude, or like there's whatever, that can completely throw off your sense of self, your entire day, like how you show up as a mom, show up in your work, right? Yeah. And so I love sharing about this very simple 3-step process. I call it the Beautiful Boundaries Blueprint. And you can replace the word boundaries with desires, because to me, they're the same. But it's first like just being authentic to how you feel. So for example, if your husband maybe, I'm trying to think of like a good example, like, let's say, for example, you're on the phone with your husband and he wasn't hearing you. He didn't hear you. And this actually happened to me yesterday. I didn't do it so well in the moment. I apologize later. This is what I would have done. Okay. So I was frustrated. I didn't feel heard. And what I would have said is like, babe, I feel frustrated right now. I don't feel heard. Right. So just being really honest, I feel frustrated. You're not blaming your partner. Mm-hmm. You're just expressing how you feel. And there's an art here, because most people, there's deeper work. And if you guys want to explore this deeper, check out my Instagram. I have some training on this for you. But where people get it wrong is like, I feel like you're judging me. I feel, and that's not a feeling, right? That's actually like your opinion. So I just want to make, give a little like warning sign there. So it's just taking responsibility for your feeling. I feel frustrated. I feel hurt. And then the next step is, this is how you create safety for your partner. What is his highest intention? In that moment, his highest intention was, I'm just trying to think of the example, like what happened yesterday. His highest intention was just to try to get this project complete and trying to work as a team together, right? If I wasn't present to that, if I was having a really bad day, right, I would say something like, you just never listen to me. You're always trying, you always shut me down. You always have to have the last, whatever, right? That is not his highest intention. And so here we get to you get to speak you get to speak life into him and help him remember and help yourself get present to who he is, right?
Yeah.
He's not somebody who's trying to hurt you, right? He's like, he's your man, he's your guy, he's there to support you. So I would have said something like, babe, like, I know that we're just trying to like get this project done and you want to work as a team. And then the third step is where's where you empower yourself. You get to make a request. You get to make a request. What is it? What could have happened? What needs to happen, or what do you want to happen that will enable you to be present and to keep your heart open in this conversation? And for me, it would have been like, can you take a moment and hear me out? Right? Can you hear me out for a moment? I want to make sure that you heard my concerns about this. Right? And so if you say all those things in those 3 steps, what do I feel and I see and I request or I desire in that roadmap, in that order as a start, right? It really, really helps. And then suddenly you're going to notice that your husband is like he does want to listen. He does want to support you. He is the man that like you thought that he was, like when you first started dating, And so that would be like my very first place to start, is like to empower yourself in having these skills. Now, I will say for what happened yesterday, I noticed myself being frustrated, but I was actually acting frustrated and not just saying I'm frustrated. And afterwards, like I immediately, and this is where the work comes in. I ain't perfect, you guys. But right afterwards, I was like, oh, like it doesn't feel good. Like I didn't like who I was being. And then I realized that like that's what I was doing. I was acting frustrated instead of saying I'm frustrated. And I sent him a text. I apologized and I said, I'm sorry. I showed up as Stern Fern. Stern Fern is one of my shadows. She is very self-righteous. She thinks she's intellectually superior, but she's not. And so she's very stern, get shit done, and very cold and very frigid. And I said, baby, I'm sorry. I showed up as Stern Fern. I don't want to do that to you. And he goes, he's so cute. He goes, I love me some Fern.
Oh, he's such a sweetheart. And this is the trust you build. Oh, like we both love her. She was just a little out of line today. Yes, I highly recommend this, y'all, because we need these frameworks. And it's interesting because then the more you use them, they become second nature. And then you just operate like this. It becomes ingrained into your body. And furthermore, those what we might consider the fuck ups, or like the oopsies and ouchies, as my kink mentor would call them. They're great opportunities to deepen intimacy and trust. And so just like Julie's saying, it's like we acknowledge and then get back in integrity and recommit to whatever it is that, we're committed to showing up in that way. And so also cut yourself slack whenever those moments happen, but clean up the mess that you made, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we need these tools and these practice. The relationship is a practice day in and day out. So yeah. Oh, and on that note too, so you have a course as well. So where can folks find your offerings and courses and coaching? Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, girl, yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. Yes, because there are deeper layers to explore, and this will help you to do that, within that container. So, yeah. So, any final thoughts, Julie, to leave with our listeners today? Mm. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Hmm. Yeah, exactly. The union. Yeah, it's that union. Working in harmony and unity. It's like it's not one or the other. We get stuck in that kind of, you know, binary thinking there, but they're one. Yeah, we think of the yin and yang, and that yet they're one. And so that's consciousness for you, mirrored in our relationships. Oh God. Yeah. So that is so yeah, everyone, I'll link your Instagram, and then anyone who's interested in going deeper can explore from there, check out her free workshop and go deeper in the course, in the immersion. And yes, and so thank you so much, Julie, for joining us today. Thank you for being here, sharing your wisdoms in yourself. Yeah. I love you so much. And I'll be voice messaging you later. Yeah, we'll be unpacking this. No. And yeah, and for everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, here's to liberating your wild feminine heart.
Bring the bass, give me a taste, they ain't me to waste. I'm your little plaything. I got to feel